What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Essential Scares podcast, the only show that dares to ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today is Bobby.
Hello, all you sexy, sexy vampires of every gender construction. Blah.
And Alan.
Hey, everybody. That's all I got this week.
We got a great show for you today. We are kicking off our new theme, a whole month for a whole franchise, starting with Insidious.
Oh, shit, you're right. I forgot it's technically November. Oh, man.
But first, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. I would like to explain before we get to my spoiler warning. I forgot that this comes out on Wednesday.
The last day of Halloween.
Yes, instead of Monday, the actual day of Halloween. So that explains my spookiness for Hallow Spooky Month. But this is a November episode, and this will serve as your first one and only spoiler warning for the movie Insidious. If you do not want the movie spoiled for you, please skip to the time code provided in the show notes or description for our essential spoiler-free discussion. You know, the more James Wan movies I watch, the more I recognize that I might not necessarily hate James Wan's directing as much as I hate the Conjuring series of feature films. Alan.
It's funny you say that. I actually have a few notes in here that where I say something to the effect of, I don't know what it is about James Wan, but I just kind of like his vision, but that's neither here nor there. So Insidious, we have a family who's clearly moved to this new big ass house, and their son meets a demon in the attic. Now they go through this whole long-winded reason as to why the son even meets a demon that relates back to his dad. But the long and the short of it is, this is like just a very bog standard type of like ghosty kind of movie, and it's pretty boring.
Wow, Alan just putting his thoughts out there in the synopsis, huh?
Yep. I have, again, in my notes, like, the amount of times where I was like, I'm interested, I'm completely bored. I'm interested, I'm completely bored. It was a lot of up and down for me. Yeah.
This is very interesting for me, because I definitely do not feel that way about this movie. Bobby?
I will say, to kind of synthesize Alan's point, I've never seen a movie rely so heavily on a soundtrack as James Wan's Insidious does.
That's fair.
It is most the go 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 theater of the show. It's very like, it's just like, okay, I get it. Out of key piano is scary. Okay, good. Also, Tiptoe Through the Tulips, it's scary when a ghost is dancing to it or sharpening its claw with it. Like, yeah. Good. But, like, I will also say, this employs James Wan's favorite actors in a way that is the most successful I've ever seen James Wan's actors play. And I will give them that. Actors I do not like. The fucking Wanell guy who also writes most of his films.
Leigh Whannell, he writes a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson, who
he directed like half the Saw movies.
Yeah, god damn it,
Which
I do not
he?
like. He's the Specs guy.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson, who I get most people like him and find him lovable. I just cannot. When he is. Warren, the guy, he fucking is the most annoying asshole I've ever seen in my entire life, and I hate him. And I can't see him in other things other than him being like, Jesus! And this, he's very good, and it makes me second guess myself, even for a second. So, like, this movie is well acted, and has a soundtrack that kind of it is outside of itself, but owns.
I think it works partially because, like, this came out long enough ago that style of soundtrack wasn't quite as overplayed as it is now.
Yeah, it came out at a time
You know?
where where I thought legitimately the Leviathan theme from Dead Space was actually cool and scary and epic, and not just like, okay, everyone's doing the Leviathan theme from Dead Space. Go ahead. Go look it up on your favorite streaming platform, dear listener. You'll get what I mean. Just look up Dead Space Leviathan.
No, that's true though. And like when did Dead Space come out, right? Like 2007. I mean,
Yeah.
like there is like I would say we're not a video game show, right? But we're all gamers. And there is kind of a pre and post Dead Space in horror soundtracks. Like that that is just a fact. Not that people want to talk about that.
It's like the same thing. There's like a pre and post Resident Evil phase when it comes to horror movies. Gaming does have an influence on horror movies, and horror movies do have an influence on horror games. So like, for sure.
Yeah.
I do agree that like at the end of the day, there is like, to Alan's point, but also kind of contradicting Alan's point, this movie's weird because it's not boring, but it's also not good. Like it's almost good. I would say Insidious is almost like the other spoiler bit I had for this flick was this is the beginning of the James Wan cliff. Like
that's true for sure.
It's all down. This is like Wile E. Coyote like holding up the uh-oh sign.
I love James Wan, right? And I think I feel very confident saying that I'm the biggest fan out of the three of us of his stuff.
For sure.
And this movie is absolutely a turning point in his career. Insidious is almost like The Conjuring 0. It's everything that he learned from making Insidious made The Conjuring a little bit better, right? It came out only 2 years later. Took a lot of the same actors, same like cues, kind of a similar like ghost style, and I think that in those ways it's more interesting as a movie because it is that like it's like a proto of what The Conjuring becomes. I will say I don't think that it's ever boring personally. I quite like Insidious up until the part when they actually go into the further, which is like, the most interesting, the most unique part. It's easily the worst part of the whole movie, right?
I have a huge problem with that. And so they talk about how they're astral projecting, okay? They're going wherever they want. Sure. And to show us that, you're just in the house you are in. Like, that just feels so boring. Like, that's fair. When I think through something like that, I think, okay, this can be like fantastic. Like, you can do anything here. Mm-hmm. But we're just, where Dalton just running around his house with his fucking lamp like he's Alan Wake. Like, it just didn't feel
a gamer reference.
I knew it'd be an easy one to throw in, so I had to.
So I think that I will say, like, I'm not a huge fan of them using the term astral projection because the way that they use astral projection in the movie doesn't quite line up with anybody who has ever heard the term astral projection before this. This is not at all what they're envisioning. Yeah. So when they start talking about it in the movie and they use that term several times, you're like, oh, okay, like, where's this going to go? Like, I kind of think I know what that means. And it turns out, like, not to be that at all.
Yeah.
Definitely a missed opportunity, right? I think that, there's no, like, flying or, like, visiting, like, proper dimensions. It's like, it's kind of just, like smoky nonsense.
His son goes, I went and flew, and then I went and flew on his like little drawings that he had,
which is very astral projecty, right? So
exactly.
You're like, okay, like I'm feeling it now. Yeah.
So it's like it's contradictory because it's like they clearly show that within universe they have a good concept of what this is, but then when we actually get to see it in the movie, it's just not done in any way that's like cool and interesting.
I don't know what the budget was for this movie.
That's fair.
But it feels like a low budget decision. And James Wan, like historically, has worked with relatively small budgets in comparison to like some other like big horror movies, kind of until like The Conjuring got really big and, you know, they were just like, you know, make whatever you're going to make because we're going to make 200 mil back on this, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Fuck it. Make Annabelle in space. Fuck you.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, the decision to have the astral projection in the exact same set with different lighting and a smoke machine feels like the low-budget solution to that concept.
Yeah.
I'll also say the further ruins any sort of who's crazy mom or dad element,
which is a huge part of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, like they keep doing this thing where it's like, oh, dude, no, it's definitely Patrick Wilson who's crazy, but at the same time, you only ever see things when the mom's the only person. So like, what's going on
and when
there?
no one else is around. So
Yeah. So is she like it's very clear that, like, you know, because I would say James Wan does have talents in cinematography, but he does not have talents in subtlety. That he's trying to twist you with.
He used them all up on Saw 1.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're gonna burn up all
He
of your
used a
subtlety,
little bit
that's
in
a
Saw
pretty good
2.
movie to do it.
He used a little bit of it when he was like, hey, spoiler, the spoiler of Saw 2 is the spoiler. And it's like, oh, that's kind of a fun little thing. And then the rest of the Saw movies were like, let's just fucking...
Yep.
What if the guy in the first one is the killer in the last one? Holy shit, oh my god. Anyway.
I do want to give this movie some credit, though. I think
can't wait to do our Saw series.
Oh, I'm very excited for that. We'll have to do that over 2 months.
The 3-month special.
Oh my god. So this is a PG-13 movie. Bobby, what do we say about PG-13 horror on this show?
This is a PG-13 movie. It's always bad. It's always bad.
Now,
if you've been following my Letterboxd reviews this month, you would know that in fact PG-13 horror can be good.
No, it can't. My whole diatribe.
Bobby's about to check the movies that I reviewed this month. There are several PG-13 entries.
Hate that. This movie uses its one F-bomb, and I think the most like realistic way I've ever seen in a movie. Like,
I love the way they use it. It's
perfect. It feels so real.
It absolutely does. It actually lends to the scene, unlike so many F-bombs that are dropped in PG-13 movies or any movies. And that one like actually has like an impact. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a
great use of that.
Yeah, and I mean, so again, talking about subtlety, I think this is another, like, instead of just like, you know, looking at the script and he turns to the camera and says, "Get the fuck away from my son." Like that was definitely one of the passes. 100%. It
no
absolutely
chance it wasn't
was in
right?
there.
It had to be.
But somebody went, "Wait, we've got this F-bomb over here, and this one's better." So it's got to get. I got to give it some credit
that's
there.
What I'm just doing. I'm just handling it my own fucking way. Is that what it is?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. I again, like I'll say, is Patrick Wilson is not an actor that is a favorite of mine. I will fully admit this, but I will say he some of his line deliveries in this movies are some of the most heart-wrenching line deliveries I've ever seen in a movie. Like, again, I've said this multiple times that one of the reasons I like this movie is from a very simple, very subtle line delivery that he gives in this movie, where the wife character, what was the actress's name in this movie?
Rose Byrne.
Rose Byrne. Rose Byrne's like, "You don't believe me. Why don't you believe me? Why don't you believe me?" And Patrick Wilson just looks at her and goes, I moved houses for you. Of course I believe you." And it's like heartbreaking. Every time I watch that scene, I'm just like, oh,
yep,
my little heart. Oh no. Because it's like, he's like, we're going insane, but I'm telling you, like, we could go with this, but why aren't you believing me that this is not a good idea? And like, the problem is like, rationally speaking, he's right. Like,
well, I mean, when he has that again, talk about moments where he finally, like, when Elise, that's her name, when she like tells him everything that's going on, he's like, okay, we're done with this. This is far too far past everything. Yeah. Like, again, I think I think Josh is probably one of the most believable characters in just a horror film. Like he kind of
for sure. He goes along with everything up until like the rational limit, and then he's like, okay, this is no longer appeasing, the situation. So,
this doesn't make any sense for me anymore.
He actually is a rational actor for once in like we actually have that in a film, and it's good. I quite like Patrick Wilson, even though he kind of perpetually has a face as if he's confused about something. Like he just always his resting face is confusion. He
works in this movie. It does not work in other films.
Sure, I agree.
Like he's a character actor being asked to play a leading man too often.
I don't disagree with that.
like that's. I think that's why I hate him, is because unfortunately.
He's
Patrick
the character
Wilson,
actor with a pretty face, and they got pushed into the wrong
because in this movie he is playing a character. He's playing a really good character. But in like, let's say the Conjuring series of films, he's playing an awful character, and he's playing it like a leading man. And I hate it. I don't want to turn Insidious, again, the prequel, the progenitor for the Conjuring series of film, but ultimately a better film, to a hate session about how much I hate all three Conjuring movies. And let's not even get into Annabelle. Let's not even touch it, okay?
So anyway, in The Nun, there's this part where to add on to all of that, I think that that's even why the sequence in The Further is the biggest letdown, because the movie has this very like palpable tension and like realness to it up until that sequence, and that like it works. It's like a haunted house movie with very believable characters and very like realistic like marital conversations, and then they go into like the supernatural realm, and it's like woo TV craziness. It's like, okay, it jumps the shark so fast, so hard in one movie. It's
Watch
shocking.
out, this girl in my makeup's killing her family, also in my makeup.
Like why is it, what is going on? And then the demon, that part is the funniest part of the whole movie, like when he's sharpening his nails. Like it's so clearly not played for horror. I don't know.
It absolutely is. It absolutely
It's only
is.
scary until they show him in the workshop, and then the way it is filmed, the expression on the demon's face, it's pure comedy. I don't think that is meant to be scary.
I think so often we have given James Wan an out. Again, going back to Malignant, where we were like, this has to be meant for a joke, and I don't think it is. I legitimately do not. Every time I watch a James Wan movie, and you're like, and Corbin's like, the first time we did it, I was like, sure, yeah, I think you might be right. But we've watched so many since, and you're like, it has to be for comedy. And I'm like, I don't know, man. This feels on the nose too much.
I read that as comedy all the way.
It feels like it's supposed to be funny. Yeah, like it's so far past the horror line.
I don't know, man.
I'm on presumably the James Wan side of this. That was supposed to be funny on purpose.
What if you get like an email from him later? It's like, no, Bobby was right. Why didn't you defend me, Corbin?
The real James Wan at Gmail. Corbin.
I would be shell shocked for sure. I'd lose all faith in Insidious 5.
I have a question.
All the faith you have in it.
Yes, Alan.
How does a teacher, who's the only one bringing in a salary, afford to move and hire movers twice in like 3 months?
Well, so first of all, he's not just any teacher, okay? He's a high school teacher, which is important.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, his wife does make money in unknown quantity writing and selling music of some kind. So
does she?
I mean,
I just assumed that was one of those things where it. Again, the stupid Alan gets pulled out of it.
Definitely, people will see the Elster thing that I had on the video podcast. Just to spoil that for people.
I love that.
Damn it, Bobby.
No, she makes money because when she talks about like music and writing, like she talks about it like it's work. It's never about passion or like a hobby.
I guess.
For her.
I don't know. I just when the second time they move, I'm like, huh, really? And you hired movers? You just did this.
They downsized the second time.
Sure.
And
still.
when did this movie take place in?
2010.
Oh yeah, I don't understand how that's possible.
They was buying a lot of
They didn't buy the dip. They were too late for it. Like
people were still running out of money in 2010.
That's fair. Now, something we haven't brought up yet that we have to talk about within this film is the obscene reliance on jump scares to be basically all of the horror in this film. What do you guys think?
No, I want Corbin to defend that smug about it. I need you to defend that because he's absolutely right. Alan is 100% correct. This movie is completely reliant on jump scares.
Is it completely reliant on jump scares? I have to say no, and there's one reason why.
I'm rolling my eyes at you.
It's a reason that Bobby's already brought up, right? Obviously, the soundtrack is creating most of the horror, most of the tension. That said, of course, this is a jump scare movie, right? There's no two ways about it. There are great things about it, I think, and things that make it a pretty solid film, but those things don't really contribute to the horror of the moments. And even when you're following a lead character, like there are so many interactions with the ghosts that are just like oddly not scary at all until there's like a jump scare component. And why that is true, I don't know, because it like really waters down the ghosts. Are they supposed to be watered down? Are they supposed to be scary? I'm unsure. Sometimes they're just there in the background. Sometimes they're like physically attacking people. I don't get it.
Again, the kid dancing, doing this little jig to tiptoe through the tulips, and then like it's not scary until he goes a boo, and it's just like fuck
and like
off.
Is the kid the demon? Like how many people are listening to this song? Right? Like what's the deal with that? Like
that's just the song of the dead, man, tiptoeing through the tulips. You know. That's all. That's all they hear.
Tiny Tim is in fact dead, so it would make sense.
It is overly reliant on jump scares. I think there's a few good ones, but there's a lot of like any movie with a bunch of jump scares. There's going to be a few good ones, and then a bunch where it's like, did that need to be a jump scare? Like, what kind of movie is this? So.
Listen. With a movie as jump scare heavy as this. For this movie to have a good jump scare, it's gotta be an Exorcist 3-level jump scare. You don't get that in this movie.
I don't know about that because some movies are quantity over quality jump scares.
I'm not saying as good as, but I'm saying on the same level as. Right, you need at least one.
So question for you.
And the one jump scare that you get is you get Darth Maul Goblin for like a second, and it's so memed to death, and it's actually not that scary.
It got me.
I think it's still pretty good. I think that one is good, and I think when Rose Byrne is in her room watching the ghost go back and forth in the window, and then like the jump scare is now he's in the room. That one, I don't know. That one works for me. I like that one a lot too.
That one, the other one for me that worked was when she went to go get her daughter, and the guy just
for
there.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's the one good one in this movie, I would say. Like Darth Maul Goblin is not scary, but the guy behind the just behind the veil of the crib is a little bit like because she walks in at first and you don't see it, then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, there's something there.
And they kind of earn it too, because before that they've been setting up like hearing shit from the baby monitor, so like
you're ready to see something, and then you do.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You're ready, but there's enough time between when that occurs and then this jump scare occurs that like it's happened, but you're not thinking about it in the same way. So then when they actually pull that on you, it's like, oh fuck. Those were the two that really got me to jump pretty good. But I also am the most jumpy out of all of us with any of these movies.
That is very true.
Quite a big degree.
But yeah, this movie feels longer than what it is. Up and down is the best way to put this movie, I think, because like you are just waiting for the next jump scare, it feels like. And like because the non-horror elements are so neutered, like even though they couldn't be some of the most horrific parts, like the part where the coma kid's older brother or younger brother, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's
like,
pretty ambiguous.
You know, can I switch rooms? I don't like it when he walks around. Is like that should have been a scary moment. It was not. Like
that actually leads me to an observation I made this time. So I watched this movie last year also for when we did 33 Days last year when Bobby reviewed it, and I just watched it as well. He says that, and I remembered when he said that, I remember that there's a scene coming up where she's like sees his feet, and I was waiting for them to be like dirty or something, and like that for that to be like a thing. And then like she pulls a sheet up and it's just the red handprint, and I was like, that's actually not as scary as it would have been if it was just like he actually is like out and about, like he's got like dirty, like muddy feet or something. Like there's something else here.
Or like he had blood on his feet or something.
Yeah,
of like a scratch, like
and that's
something.
Even like when they start pulling it away and there's like
that's blood, what I
like,
thought
oh,
it was gonna be.
His feet were bloody. That's what I remembered
because he's been running around every night. Yeah,
exactly.
And so like I even like remembered there being a better scare there than there was, because it just makes sense that's what would be the next moment.
That's what this movie is. You remember the scares being better. That's if that's what you're gonna put on the tagline of this film
on the back of the box. You remember the scares being better.
You
saw this in high school and thought it was scarier than it is. I definitely saw this in theaters. I don't know if you guys did, but
absolutely not.
No, I watched this because this came out in 2012, right?
2010. Yeah, we were 17 when it came out. Yeah.
Fuck. I don't think
Conjuring
I saw it
came
until I
out
went
in
to
2012.
college.
Okay.
That makes sense.
No, we would have been 18 and 19 at that time.
10?
No, because it came out in the summer, I'm pretty sure.
The summer of 2012.
No, we're talking about Insidious, though, 2010.
2000. Oh, yeah. Yes. I thought you said 2012. I'm sorry.
Oh, because Alan thought it came out in 2012. Yeah, so
that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, 2010, yes, we would have been summer of 2012. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I was super into horror at that point, so yeah.
I was not.
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
I brought up the drawings earlier. Did nobody
the
notice
drawings
those?
Bug me as well.
It's so
Patrick
they're
Wilson's
so obvious.
They put them back
he's so unbelieving until he looks at the drawings and it's like, weren't those already there? Like, haven't you seen these before?
No. They moved houses, which means they had to put them back up on a corkboard. It's like, well, let's put it the red-faced guy and the demon guy and the dream board all up there.
And the big red door with black all around it that looks very creepy, and I would be immediately concerned if my son drew something like that.
You know, my wife's been talking about this very exact face.
Despite the fact that, so I have kids, and if they were like, oh, this was in my dream last night, and I know that they hadn't seen that before, I know that it would probably freak me out if it happened in real life. When it happens in movies, it is such an overused trope. Like, it's not scary in the slightest. I don't know what it is, but there's so many horror movies have the fake kids drawing with the monster, the demon, the werewolf, whatever, and it's like, this isn't scary. Like, it's so overdone, and this movie is no different.
In Cujo. Yeah, it's best used in Cujo.
True. That's definitely
when it
true.
has nothing to do with it actually being a monster. It's so good. How did the monster get out of my closet? It's such a good line, and this is not that. I had to tell you. But like, again, I don't know. Maybe I'm being overcritical, but this movie just feels like it was really good at the time and has failed to really hold up in ways that others do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of it doesn't have it's weirdly non-artistic. Like to be super snobby about it. There's something just really oddly this is kind of boring. Like
corporate horror.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, that's a lot of James Wan stuff feels like that, I think.
It feels very much like I Know What You Did Last Summer, but it's not trying to co-opt something. That's the weird bit about it. It's like like, you know what I mean? Like, I know what you did last summer was trying to co-opt like Scream, but this was like Insidious was like, I'm gonna be creative, but also whatever you want, sir. Like,
Yeah, I
and
don't
that
know.
feels so weird to
It's
me.
this one is weird to me because I've always had good, not great like thoughts about it. Like if you just ask me like, oh, how do you feel on Insidious? I'd probably just be like, I like it. Shrug. I like it. You know, like whatever. It always felt like the lesser sibling to The Conjuring to me. And
I liked it more than Conjuring, to be fair.
so there you go. But when I watch Insidious, I quite like it, right? Like I enjoy 85% or 90% of the runtime. I really like it. I think the characters are endearing, like the even like the guys that come in to like do the EMP or whatever, like they're very funny. Like they come in at exactly the right moment, you know. I like it quite a lot while watching, and I'd watch it anytime. But it's one of those also where when discussing it, like trying to be critical of the movie, it's like maybe there wasn't like so much here, you know, right? So I don't know what it is about Insidious. There's only a few movies like that, I think, but like I feel differently about it when I'm watching it versus when I think about it. I don't know.
I get what you mean. It's inoffensive in the way of like, I mean, I could. There are worse ways to spend an hour and 40 something minutes of my life, like but like while watching it, it's not that like annoying. I don't know. It's I get where you're saying.
Yeah.
Did you guys laugh at when the dead people show up and they like kick open the closet door and they're just like standing there with these dumb looking faces? I laughed very hard at that moment.
I did not laugh, but yeah.
I laughed quite hard. It was they didn't mean to make me laugh, but it did quite a bit.
I'll say this, and I think this will be the ending, and we'll rate this bad boy after I say what I want to say because I'm cool and awesome and sad. This movie is very inoffensive in a way that makes you enjoy it. I would say it's very much like, you know, like a soda or like a Marvel movie. You're just like, okay, yeah, I'm here with it. Like, I like this. There's nothing wrong with this. And then you're done with it. You're like, my teeth kind of hurt a little bit. And that's like the end of it. Like, and I think that's the problem with this movie is it's so weirdly remembered for how just like flatlined it is. And I kind of get stuck with that. Like, if I were just to say as like a consumer, how do I feel about Insidious? I'd be like, yeah, you can watch that. This is exceptionally palatable to anybody who is half interested in horror movies. But the reality is, as somebody who's like, I like horror a lot, it's just like, man, this is just like the most middle of the road movie a movie could be. Which brings me to rating this bad boy. You see, we rate this bad boy from 0 to 5 with half points allowed. So like a 3.75, absolutely not, but a 3.5, totally acceptable.
Not for this movie.
I thought that it'd be really interesting to go from lowest to highest, and I think I want to go with Alan first at the lowest score.
I think this movie is decidedly middle of the road. For that, it's got to be a 2.5. It hits that straight middle of the road path. It doesn't deviate from it, and that's what you get out of it. If you are a big fan of jump scares, you might like this movie quite a bit more because there's plenty of them in here of varying quality. I just think ultimately at the end of the day, it just doesn't really do anything too adventurous in horror. I mean, it feels like we've seen the movie Insidious so many times, but we haven't like actually watched Insidious itself that many times. You know what I mean? It's just so by the books. We've made the comparison of paint by numbers but horror, and that's kind of what this feels like. So 2.5.
I'm going to go next, and I'm also going to give this a 2.5. But I'm going to give it a softer 2.5 than Alan does, and I'm going to say this movie is decidedly a litmus test for what is good or bad horror. A good horror movie is going to be better than Insidious. A bad horror movie is going to be worse than Insidious. Insidious is neither good nor bad. It simply exists. And we have to thank James Wan for this. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. While I will forever hate how he created a Marvel Cinematic Universe for horror, a genre that absolutely does not need a Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is exclusively for action movies. It's fun there. It is not fun anywhere else. I said it, and I mean it.
I definitely disagree with that take.
Corbin can disagree, but Corbin also is going to give this more than a 2.5 out of 5. So we should know what his opinion is right there. It is decidedly an average film. It's got high points and low points, but at the end of the day, you go, that was a film I watched. 2.5 out of 5. Corbin.
So I started out with a higher score than I'm going to give it because of my aforementioned comment that while watching it, I like it a lot more than I think it is critically, right? And so I think probably this exact score change that is happening will probably occur every time I watch this movie because I've seen it many times and I do quite enjoy it every time I watch it. And then the further away I get from it, I soften on it and then I watch it again and it's like, oh, that was a good time. I like that. And it's well documented. I think that I like paint by numbers horror sometimes. I just like that. And I especially James Wan generic
junk
supernatural junk food ghost stories. Yeah, I like that. And so for me, I would say my score while watching this movie would be a 3.5, which is pretty high. But the score I'm gonna give this movie officially is a 3 out of 5.
What I say.
I'm happy with either of my scores, but I think critically speaking, it's probably a 3.
But hey, that's not all we do on this horror movie podcast. We also decide, as a group, whether or not the movie Insidious is essential to horror movies as a whole. Now, this is a spoiler-free section, so dear listener, if you haven't seen Insidious, you're safe to listen to this part. And I'll also let you know, for safety here, both Alan and I, Bobby, gave this movie a 2.5 out of 5, while Corbin, like a stinker, gave it a 3. Now, I think going in reverse order would be the most fun, so Corbin.
I like that.
Is Insidious essential?
No, it's not essential. I like it. I like it a lot. But it's just not bringing enough to the genre. I mentioned in the review portion that it's kind of like the proto Conjuring, and it's not. That alone doesn't make it essential because I would say yes to the Conjuring, and I believe I did. And there are a lot of other movies that feel like Insidious that are better or the same quality as Insidious. And I think I just can't in good conscience say yes. I don't think that there's enough that Insidious is adding to the genre, despite there being 4 and soon 5 entries in the franchise. It's just not there.
I'm going to say, for me, and I'm going to go second, the answer for me is almost. So on the score it'll be no, but I do want to give an almost, and I do want to explain where that is. There is a moment in Insidious, which is an iconic horror moment. One of the most iconic horror moments in horror, the canon, within the last decade. And decidedly, if you listen to the spoiler cast, you'll know that it was a horror moment that I feel like has degrading returns. Yet, it is an iconic horror moment. But a iconic horror moment does not necessarily a iconic horror movie make. I think it'll be something that's a kind of it'll get ripped off many a time, as it's already been as it was already a rip off of something else, but it kind of extrapolated on itself. At the end of the day, I don't think it is essential to horror as a whole. Corbin even brought up that, like, it almost, although it is the progenitor of, it almost becomes derivative of Conjuring, which is ultimately more essential. So I therefore I will pass it off to Alan while I hang my head in shame.
So Insidious needed to walk so that The Conjuring could run. I think that's a good way to look at it, okay? And that kind of makes me lean towards saying reluctantly maybe it is. Mm-hmm. Because do we necessarily get that next level or next step, I would say, from him if we don't have this before it? I don't like relying on those many external factors, though, when saying is a movie essential, because I think that just becomes too esoteric instead of like looking at the laurels of the movie itself and then kind of grading them on that, and then also seeing how it applies. If this movie were a better actual horror movie, even with all the other faults, I probably would say yes, because I think that it would then combine having true good horror roots with being something that was like, you know, it wasn't the movie or franchise that really became super well known, but it's the one right before, and there's a special sauce there. So I think no, but if this is a slightly scarier movie or has just a few better scares or ideas in it, then I think it pretty easily be essential in that point. But it's not that movie, so it's not essential.
Decidedly unessential.
Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of
decidedly mid.
Speaking of mid shit, where are your handles? Where can we find you guys?
Well, you can find me anywhere at Corbangering, or talking about Warhammer at Bolters_Bourbon. What have I been up to? I recently binged all of Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. I say binge because it's like 7 episodes, but they're only like 12 minutes each, so it's really not a very long watch. That was quite good. Had some, if you're interested in the prequels, you'll enjoy it. And if you're not, you probably won't care at all because it's all prequel era. I also recently watched all the way through She-Hulk while painting my Dark Angels, and that show is very good. It's very funny. It's absolutely worth a watch. It is a decidedly fresh breath of air for the Marvel Cinematic Universe because it's not like world-ending crazy nonsense. Like, it's just like fun Marvel stuff, which it's kind of been a while, I think, since we've gotten that. So highly recommend checking that out. I have been reading The Sky Stone, which I talked about before. It's a realistic King Arthur retelling. That is really cool. It's from like the mid-90s. There's 7 books. So far, so good, is what I would say. And I started playing Halo again. So I really kind of been up to a lot of stuff. It's been a good week, I would say.
Nice. You can find me at a Seal Punter just about anywhere. I finally did the last purchase for the PC upgrade today and got a 1440p monitor. It's great, 27 inches. I'll never go back because this is gorgeous to look at compared to this other monitor. Played some Warhammer myself this past little bit. It was a good time. Beat Ben again. And I'm going to continue to do that because I'm better than him. I know all of us
on the show so he can protect his own ego.
Nope. I know all of us have been very happy to purchase more dwarves for our 40k armies because they finally released basically all of them. But yeah, it was a busy weekend. I had a wedding yesterday. Had a grand old time. It was a good time.
Nice.
A Seal Punter, just about anywhere.
You can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie. All my relevant socials are there. And, well, what have I been doing, dear listeners? Well, that's a great question. Well, if you go to onto any of your streaming platform of choice and search the name One Good Scare, you'll find a band with the song Ripper on there. That's me and my new band, One Good Scare. I have been releasing music. I told you guys as soon as I could tell you guys about my new artistic projects, I would. We released music on Monday. Today is Wednesday. Give us a listen. Give us a follow. We'd really appreciate that, especially if you like hardcore, screamo, post-hardcore, whatever you want to call it. We're there. We're there for you. I play vocals as well as some other of my friends play the instruments. It's been a great time. We're looking forward to it. We'll be releasing music very, very regularly going forward. So, yeah, twitch.tv/threadweenie or One Good Scare, and especially One Good Scare Band or One Good Scare 31 on your favorite social media platforms.
Wow. Awesome. Well, you can also find the podcast anywhere at Essential Scares. We're active on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and we'd love it if you gave us a follow. In the bios of your social media of choice, we have a link to our Discord. Go ahead and join that bad boy. We talk every day about movies, music, and more. And we are also always taking movie suggestions or show suggestions as we explore this new concept of approaching an entire franchise at a time. If there's one that you'd like us to cover, toss it out there, and, maybe we will. But with that, that's the show for the week. Thank you so much for everybody that listened or watched. If you liked the show, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe, rate the show, review the show, share it with your friends. You know the deal. Next week, we are continuing our journey through this franchise dissection with Insidious Chapter 2. Thank you to Alan and Bobby for being on the show with me. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
Play that breakdown, baby.